He was liberated from thought, absorbed in the match. He struck the corner cleanly, and from the wrestling mass of the penalty area, somebody headed the ball against the crossbar. In that instant, Tom felt something inside him let go, an excitement, a lust, that left him almost dizzy as he turned and jogged back into position. After that, though, most of the play switched to the other end of the pitch. A bungle between the central defenders, Boyne and Daesh, who were sitting now on the seats in front of Tom, watching a game show on a laptop, resulted in a goal for the home side. Confidence sank from the team. They lost 3-1. In the miserable, sweaty fog of the dressing room afterwards, Clark, the manager, told them that they were a bunch of soft fucking fairies. When one of the younger players giggled, the manager stepped forward and kicked him in the leg. The coach left the dual carriageway and joined the heavy traffic moving down a superstore-lined arterial road. By a set of traffic lights, a group of home supporters stood on the pavement outside a pub, smoking. One of them noticed the coach and gulped at it for a moment until they all understood what was next to them and started into a frenzy of hand gestures. In front of Tom, a few players turned to look at the group, but he pretended not to see them. At his old club, even the reserve team coach had tinted windows. Now, outside the top flight, the supporters were an actual presence. They came up to him in the street and at the supermarket. Inside town's small, tight, windswept ground, where they stood in little grimacing clusters along the terracing, he could already identify individual voices and faces amid them. The lights changed. He gave a final glance at the group, now rhythmically fist-pumping in an ecstasy of abuse as the coach pulled away in the direction of the hotel. He was rooming with Chris Easter, the captain, a situation that Easter seemed none too happy about as he dumped his bag on the bed by the window, turned on the television, then pounded at the window pane for a couple of minutes before eventually accepting that it was not designed to open. He remained beside it for some time, staring out at the flat-roofed view of a neighboring retail park, occasionally giving a small shake of his head. Easter, Michael Yates and Frank Foley, the goalkeeper, were no longer allowed to room with one another, in any combination, and had all been paired with younger or newer members of the squad. Despite this, Clark did not seem to have a problem with the three keeping company if there was a night out after one of the friendlies. They sat together that evening in the first of a convoy of people carriers, and they formed a small boisterous circle with a few of the other senior players by the bar of the first place the squad went into, while everybody else piled into a large sticky red booth near the toilets. There was nowhere left to sit when Tom got to the booth, so he stood behind the curved banquette alongside the other young players, most of whom had come through the youth team and stuck together, smiling and straining to hear above the music what was being said. Sitting immediately below him, the right back, Mark Fleming, was telling a story. Tom could not hear a word of it. He kept his eyes on the top of Fleming's head, trying, in case anybody should look up at him, to appear coolly amused. The raw, greased scalp shone through Fleming's hair. Whatever it was that he was saying, the seated players were gripped by it. At the end of the story, Fleming bent forward and slapped both his palms onto the table. A wave of laughter coursed around the booth, and Fleming pushed back, obviously unaware of Tom standing right behind him because his head bumped into Tom's stomach, and he twisted to look up. "Christ, Tommy! That's the closest any of our balls has got to each other all day, that is." In that moment, Tom felt so grateful that he was almost moved to put his hand on Fleming's shoulder and attempt something funny in reply. Somebody else began speaking. Tom departed for the toilet. On his way back, in order to avoid being bought another drink, he went to the bar to buy one for himself. He did not notice until he got served that he was wedged up against the back of Frank Foley. Foley was talking to a tall young woman with bare shoulders, and each time he leaned in to speak to her, his large behind butted against Tom's hip. The woman was frowning. "What?" There was another press of the behind. The woman looked briefly out at the room before turning back to Foley. "Sorry, mate, I've never heard of you." She reached to collect 3 slim glasses of dark liquid and squeezed out from the crush at the bar. Foley stayed put.